Hello.
Yes, is this Dinesh?
Yes.
How are you? It's Frank DeFreitas.
Oh, hello. How are you?
Very good. It's really good to talk to you.
Yeah, nice to talk to you.
I had been thinking about you quite a bit before I received your email, and I found that such a coincidence. And I wanted to ask you to come on the show to talk about the work that you and Joy have been doing with Triple Take. You know, get a little bit of your history, and also I'm sure people would be very interested in hearing about the products that you create, where they're available, and I also understand you create some DCG plates that are available too.
That's right. Yes. We make them up as and when we get the order, because DCG plates don't last very long.
Yeah.
And so basically what we say is that you get the maximum benefit of them for the first 10 days or so.
Mm-hmm.
Then they start dying off, but they're still usable for another 2 weeks. But after about 3.5, 4 weeks, you'll still get an image, but it will be much lower quality. The image will be dimmer, and the image green shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Shifts.
Are they available as red sensitive?
No, I've never made them. I've never made them with a dye.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I sent off some plates to someone called Tom B.
Mm-hmm.
in Canada, who said he was going to try them with a dye, but I never heard anything back about them.
Oh, okay.
So yes, you can put a dye in them to make them red sensitive. You can even do that after you've sensitized it by just doing it in the dark.
Yeah.
But I've never tried it. But the problem is it takes long. The exposure is very, very long.
Yeah. Even with green, it's fairly long, or
sure.
blue.
Well, with the 488, it's not too bad. At 514, it gets a little long. But at these 532 with these diode lasers, it is very long, because you're right at the bottom of the sensitivity curve.
So with a red Heaney, you could go away for the weekend and come back and...
Well...
Yeah.
Maybe not that bad,
yeah.
But you could certainly go away, have lunch, and come back.
Yeah. The 488, that's HeCAD, isn't it?
No,
no?
Argon.
Argon laser.
HeCAD is 413, I believe.
Okay. You don't see many HeCADs around anymore.
Not they are at the bottom of dot matrix machines.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Doug Miller used to use them in Philadelphia. There was a place, what was the name of it? I'm forgetting about it. It was right down on Delaware Avenue. Oh. And Douglas Miller Holographic Design, I know they did dichromated work right in the basement there, right down by the river in Philadelphia, and they were using a HeCAD laser down there, yeah.
Yeah, because, the peak of the sensitivity at DCG is in the UV, around about 350.
Yeah.
So as you get more and more into the into 400, you get better and better sensitivity.
Yeah.
But you also get increased noise.
Well, you know what? You're a real old-timer with holography, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been in it since 1981. I started off as an intern with Richmond Holographics.
Mm-hmm.
I did their 1-week course, and then Edwina discovered that I knew a little bit about the physics and engineering of lasers and holography. So she made me a deal that if I came in there and worked with them as a consultant, that I could have table time in return.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's
then
nice.
she recruited Peter Miller to be their teacher there to teach the holography course.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter Miller recruited me as his assistant.
Yeah.
So I morphed from becoming a technical consultant to becoming Peter Miller's assistant. And Peter Miller sort of introduced pseudocolor to England. So so I was helping him work with pseudocolor back then. In 81, I think that was 82.
Very beautiful work out of Richmond Holographics.
I'm sorry?
Very beautiful work.
Oh, yeah. Well, they really got that pseudocolor thing down. The white reflections that they did back then are really nice.
Yeah. One of my favorite holograms of theirs, it was a pulsed piece, but wasn't pseudocolor. It was a Lindau Man.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, that is a very nice piece.
So you worked for a few other companies?
From the British Museum for that.
Yes. Say that again. I'm sorry. I think I overspoke.
I believe they were commissioned by the British Museum because the actual Lindau Man was too delicate to be taken around to the different museums. So they commissioned Richmond to make a hologram of it, which could be sent around.
Yeah. You know, that's another application which in theory seems like a wonderful application for holography, but it's still something that you don't see happen quite often with museums.
No, well, the Russian pieces.
Yes,
back then in
that's
the
an
80s,
exception.
That's
Yes,
what they did some
yeah,
beautiful work with
and pieces,
emulsion.
yeah, and pieces from
which
Ukraine.
Wasn't available in the West back then.
Yeah.
But you're right, you don't see them very often. I think partly because it's when color techniques become better and better. I think that you'll see more and more of them.
Well, this is certainly in your blood, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You work.
It was basically because I started off as a theoretical physicist.
Mm-hmm.
And in theoretical physics, you require a lot of imagination and a lot of imagery. And when I found holography, it was the perfect thing for me because it requires the imagination, but it also requires that sense of imagery, that sense of being able to see something.
Mm-hmm.
So it fit like a glove.
Yeah, I don't want to go off on this part of holography, but I'm sure with your background in theoretical physics and probably touching on philosophy as well, you're aware of the writings of folks such as Krishnamurti and some of the other ones.
Bohm was actually, I took a course.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I was in a class with Bohm on this whole concept of the holographic universe.
Well, you've touched on just about everything. Now, you were in England for a while, and then you decided to come over to the States, I guess.
I came over in '86 without any particular intent in mind,
mm-hmm.
because in England around then, there was no real technical holography. There was a lot of small art studios.
Yeah.
And I was working with Icon Holographics with Kaveh, and that folded. So Kaveh suggested I come to America because he said there's a lot more technical work going on here in America.
Yeah.
So I basically just got the next plane out of England and ended up in LA.
Mm-hmm.
But then I talked to the Arkins, and they suggested I try a company called NTS, National Technical Systems.
Yeah.
And National Technical Systems had a contract to make eye protection goggles for the Army.
Mm.
So I got absorbed into that, and so that was my first job here, was basically notch filters.
Yeah.
The Arkin brothers, Bob and Bill and Bob.
Okay.
They've been here for forever. They repair lasers, and they sell second-hand lasers, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Is that Joy in the background?
I'm sorry?
Is that Joy in the background?
Yes.
Yes, hello.
Hello, Joy. How are you?
I'm good.
For many years ago, you were not that far away from me, globally speaking, when you were in
I wish I'd known about you at the time.
Lycombe in college, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she had the same problem I did, that we couldn't find holographers.
Uh-huh.
When I first came here on vacation around 81 or 82 after I finished the Richmond course, and I asked around, and nobody knew what holography was, where they were, or anything at all about them.
Yeah.
I happened to find Nancy Goglione completely by accident.
Mm-hmm.
And Nancy Goglione then told me about the Holos Gallery, and then from the Holos Gallery I met the whole holographic community. But had it not been for that one accident to meet Nancy, I would never have known, and Joy had the same problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I started my studio here in '83.
Ah.
I had been following holography for a number of years, you know,
Right,
when the museum opened on Mercer Street in the mid-'70s, I guess it was, you know.
Museum.
But I would just local, you know. I mean, I never really reached out. Then I started a newsletter which I sent out to a lot of people around the world in the '80s. But it was very much a struggle, as I'm sure you're aware.
Oh, sure.
And the hours are just, you know, incredible. You're, you know, sometimes finishing stuff up 2-3 o'clock in the morning. That's even if you have stuff to do.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, even then, besides the Richmond course, I basically started up in my father's garage, building my own sand table with Fred's book.
Oh yeah.
And that was the only way to learn how to do it. There was nobody around you could ask anything of.
Well, I had three. My wife and I had 3 daughters, so I had to do everything that would come down to play. I even did holographic birthday parties.
Really?
I would travel to play other states. I'd go down to Delaware, Maryland. It didn't make any difference, you know. If someone wanted a holographic birthday party, I'd pack up the laser, because, you know, some people don't want clowns and things like that. They want This is when the when the homeschooling was starting to boom.
Right.
You know, so they wanted more educational type of birthday parties for their kids. So I'd go down, I'd have little laser light show, I'd lasers, holograms. So you have to do everything. You know, I mean,
even today you have to do pretty much everything. You have to be your own laser technician. You have to be your own model maker.
Yeah. You're a very, very interesting guest because you've made that leap, and both you and Joy are out there. You know, I mean, you're out there. This is what, you know, you depend on. It's not like, you know, if something's not happening this week with holography, you know, you've got your check coming in from the other job.
Sure.
You know, and
well, holography is a very tough business to be in.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been so many people who've given up on it.
Oh, the problem is people would spend more than $1 million trying to make $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. And,
I mean, I've been trying to look into why that is, why holography companies aren't doing well.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the conclusions I've come to is that the public does not understand it. And so if you try to tell them about holography, there's no way to advertise it.
Yeah.
And you can't really, you're basically stuck with making a lot of holograms on your own time and then showing those around.
Yeah, and when they do cover it for you, so if you get an article in a newspaper or something, a lot of times they're not explaining holography the way that it should be in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's difficult.
And they tend to use all the metaphors that are the wrong metaphors. They tend to make out as if a Princess Leia thing is just around the corner.
Yes. Yeah. It isn't? You mean it isn't?
I wish it were,
yeah.
But...
Yeah, we're still saying 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years ago, saying 20 years.
What is it Benton said, 3 PhDs away?
3. That's pretty good.
I think he's talking about holographic TV, though.
Well, you all have a whole line of products that you produce. Why don't you take a little time to... I will have a link to your website for all the HoloTalk listeners.
Okay.
And tell us about the products that you put together and each of your responsibilities as far as getting those products to market.
Well, the initial idea that we started off with was that all the holographers that we talked to, all the commercial business holographers that we talked to, said that the moment you say holograms or holographics to a client, they would immediately turn off. They would either think that you were in fantasy land or that it just was way too expensive for them. So what we thought we would try was the idea of producing a product, an object, that is an everyday common garden product or object that everyone uses, but it would have a hologram on it, so that the hologram would be an additional feature to something that you would get anyway.
Yes.
And so we thought things like coasters, clocks, keychains, the common stuff that I suppose a lot of other people have done. But then we had this idea of putting it against stained glass and creating a more decorative product.
Mm-hmm.
And so we made a lot of these things, and we tried to come up with new ideas like a little medallion hanging off a chain on a metal hook, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a lot of those around. And then we also thought about logos and things like that. But that did not seem to be going too well. We put it up on the website, and we tried to publicize it. But we also then got requests through technical holograms.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we are actually getting more and more into technical holograms and less into the display stuff, unless someone wants display holograms.
Define what you're doing with if you can, what you're doing with technical holography.
What we're doing is basically using holograms to create dedicated optical setups. If you, for example, want an optical lens or an optical mirror that only has, like a notch filter, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You have companies coming to us and they say, I want this particular optical function. And so the two of us sit down, try to figure out how to record a hologram such that you get that optical function. And then we make a sample, give it to them. We take a photograph, we show them the photograph, and we say, here is the hologram. You can see that when you hit it with white light, you get rings of different colors expanding outward maybe, something like that.
And for the sake of the listeners, what would the application of such a product be for a company?
Well, filters for filtering out selective wavelengths from a particular source.
That's good.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Solar collectors.
Now, you also offer workshops that people can come to your studio and learn holography as well, right?
Well, yes. Palomar College approached us. They have an adult education section, and they approached us, and we have had two sets of students so far. So we take in students, we take them right from theory. We spend the first morning basically going over the theory of holography, and then we spend the second half of the first day showing them just basically making a laser transmission H1. And we do it all, and they simply watch. And then on the second day, it's a 2-day course, on the second day, we make a single beam Denisek in the morning, and we have them set the optics under our supervision.
Yes.
And they get to take home the single beam Denisek. And then on the afternoon of the second day, we set up an H1, H2 system to do reflection, H1, H2, with the H1 they made the previous day. And this time again, they set up all the optics from scratch.
Yeah.
And so they get to take home single beam Denisek and an image planed reflection and their H1.
Yeah, what plates are you using now?
Now we're using DCG. For the students, we use silver halide because we don't want the students exposed to the argon laser. It's too powerful. So we use a low-power Heaney, and we use PFG-01 on the
Oh, I see. Okay. If you find you get very good results with those?
We get some very, very bright ones. We've got silver halide holograms that are almost as good as DCG.
Yeah.
And they can be seen in ordinary light under a fluorescent bulb without blacking.
Well, what do you think of the fact that sometimes, regardless of what it is that people are doing in this field, that sometimes people get really good results with something and other times people can't do it if their life depended on it, or something in between? I mean, the consistency across people, amateurs, hobbyists, and I guess there's more consistency where professionals are concerned. But as far as this amateur realm that's growing by leaps and bounds.
Yeah, because I think that partly it's very, very procedural, but you have no feedback from the process.
Yeah.
So you have no idea of how well you're doing until you get to the end of the process. So if your laser happens to be fluttering, if something happens to be moving, you won't know that until you've done your shot.
Yeah.
Once you've done your shot, you look at it, you have to basically think backwards of all the different ways it could have gone wrong and check every one of them out.
Yeah.
And so it's a fairly complicated process, but so long as the equipment is working and the process is consistent, you should get good, consistent results.
Yes.
But because there are so many unknowns, it's very difficult to get to that process, I think.
Yeah, and
I think a lot of the time, and again, I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. There are books that tell you simply point your laser at the glass, put an object behind it, turn on the shutter, and you get a hologram. And when they don't, you have what Bob Hess calls hobby killers. They think they've done something wrong and they give up on it.
Yeah.
With it, and if you just carefully go through all your equipment and all your procedures, you should get consistent holograms every time.
I find that holograms will talk to you if you learn how to listen to them once they're finished.
Well, one of the most difficult things that I had to do was trying to troubleshoot a hologram by looking at the image. I mean, clearly, if the image is dark, you know you've done something wrong. But one of the most difficult things I had to do is if there's a little ring on the image, or if there's a fading off, if there's a vignetting, you have to basically work backwards and say, is it the laser? Is it my optics? Did a baffle get in the way? And that troubleshooting is a talent all of its own, I thought.
Have you ever worked with stereograms?
Never.
No. That's a demanding process.
Oh, I'll bet it is, because you have to do 300 shots, and if one frame goes...
That's it.
You start all over again. I've heard horror stories that way.
Yeah. So what do you see for the future for Triple Take?
I like display holography. I'm hoping that we get a better market out of display holography. but unfortunately I don't see it as a very big part of sales. So I see more and more technical work, and I think that holography is coming into its own. It's becoming very, very strong in the technical area. It's being called diffractive optics now, DOEs. And this whole field of DOEs, especially with telecommunications, is becoming very big. And so I think that more and more we're going to have to get into that area.
Micro-optics.
Micro-optics, fiber Bragg gratings, optical routers, the Internet. When Internet 2 comes out, there's going to be a big push for optical interconnects. And with these WDMs, which are basically holographic, there's going to be a big push for holography in that area, I think.
Is there anything that you'd like to say that I haven't asked about?
I can't think of anything offhand. I would promote holography by getting more and more amateurs involved in it and showing it around. I think that the more the public at large gets to see holograms, the more accepted it will be. So I'd like to see more holograms. In the 80s, there were a large number of public showings in London and over here, and that's all gone. So I'd like to be able to set up a gallery somewhere in San Diego, get holographers to send me holograms, and make our own holograms and have public showings so that the public at large gets to see them more.
That would be very nice. I used to do that back in the 80s.
Right.
And it's very well received.
Sure.
It is, but it doesn't go anywhere.
Doesn't go, yeah.
It's very well received.
That's a pity.
There were several shows that I had curated back, I don't know, maybe between 85 and 95, between, this area, southeastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York area. Very well received. One of them had people out the door and down the block waiting to get in to see holograms. But that's it. Nothing happens. Now, that could be my fault because I didn't have. I don't think perhaps I don't have the experience to take it any further. What do you do? I mean, correct ways of marketing, coming up with good ideas to do this or do that, or business ideas or whatever.
Well, I think that one of the problems that I found in a lot of those shows that happened in the 80s was that there was no follow-through during the show. If you go to an artist gallery, you see the artist's name and you have some way of contacting the artist, some way of finding out more about that particular artwork. And I suppose one of the bees in my bonnet is that if you see a hologram from anything from a magazine cover to, let's say, a display piece advertising something, you have no concept or idea of who made that hologram or how it was made. There's no follow-through. And so I thought what I would like to do is, if I were to ever do this public showing thing, is to have some way of contacting other holographers so that when a holographer sends me a hologram, I'll have a little card giving his or her contact information, some idea of how you can get to make your own hologram, where the schools are, a complete kind of information package so that people who see these holograms can then know where to go to find out more, to learn how to do it themselves, what the history of the subject is, that kind of thing. And I think that was the problem then, is they came in, they saw the holograms, they said this was great, walked home, and didn't follow through.
And that was it.
That was it.
Well, keep me in mind if you want a hologram. I could certainly send you one if you ever wanted to put something on display, if you got something together out there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm still working my way through that, but it's because I know that gallery space is not easy to come by. You can't just go to a gallery and say, I'd like to put up holograms. You have to sell the concept.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So, but yes, thank you. If and when I ever set that up, I'll contact you.
And thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you.
Joy, I'd like to get you on for a specific show as well to hear about your background, especially your involvement with women in optics and how, you had chosen the field of physics as part of your education and your field of work.
Yeah, I was figuring that you were interviewing him separately because his background is so different from mine.
Well, we'll get a separate interview with you up there.
Okay.
That'd
be fun.
Yeah. All right. It's a little after 3 o'clock in the afternoon here, and time to wrap up for the weekend. I have to do the second part of that holographic stamps that I have up there. That's
Holographic stamps?
Yeah, it's a program that I've worked on with Hans, and the history of holographic postage stamps, philately.
Oh.
So that's up there. Part 1's up there now, and I have to get Part 2 up there. And then I have one show after that, and I think probably 2 weeks from now yours will go up.
Oh, okay. We're actually in your part of the world every Christmas, so we were saying this morning that come Christmas we might sort of pop over.
How close are you?
Yeah, my family's from Philadelphia, so that's where I go home every year for Christmas.
No kidding. I grew up in Philly.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could tell by the Philly accent.
Yes, I can.
Sylvester Stallone, Rocky type of thing. Learning to speak proper English was like learning a second language for me growing up in Philly.
Uh-huh.
You know?
The differences between American English and British English, I'm still working my way through that.
Yeah. Well, thank you both, and I don't know if you're on the email list or not that goes out to people when new shows go up or not, but
I'd like to be, though.
Yeah, you can get that at the website, or I'll actually just send you an email separately.
Great, all right.
Okay. There's 8 years of programming. This show's in its 8th year now, and
Yes, I know. I've been following it.
yeah.
We have gone on and listened from time to time.
Oh, that's nice to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're the ones. All right. Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
You too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.